Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and welcome. It is Saturday morning, and of course, it is time for another episode of Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell more effectively in today's marketplace. And I've got my co-host here, Mark Hunter. You appear to be on location today.
Yes, I am on location. We'll get into that maybe a little later on. Who knows? But yeah, hey, it's great to be here because it's a great way to start off Saturday mornings, right? Why not?
It's my favorite way to start off Saturday mornings, talking about sales. So did you have a good week, Mark?
I had a great week. Had a number of sales calls yesterday. I tell you what, stuff is really picking up out there, and it's all the way around. What about on your end?
Yeah, you can really feel the economy starting to move and things really beginning to happen. Now, today we're going to be discussing, I think, is the most powerful and most neglected part of the sales process. And I don't know about you, but I am anxious to get into it. So how about I pop this video and we start the show?
Let's roll.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
All right. As I said, we have a great topic today, but I want to tell you really quickly how the show works before we dive in and tell you what we're going to talk about today. Every single week, we come to you at 9 o'clock Eastern talking about sales. Every week, we have a topic. We have a powerful question from you, the audience. So if you ever have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to us at our website, saleslogicpodcast.com. You can see it right there on the screen, or just put it out there on social media and hashtag it Sales Logic, and we will find you. We dive into a book we feel that you should be reading that would make you even more effective in sales. And just so that you get return on investment, we leave with a lightning round, a set of strategies that you can put into place right away. So Mark, what is on target for today?
Well, on target for today, we're talking about networking, and the topic specifically is how to make networking part of your sales success. In fact, that's what I'm doing this week. I got down here yesterday to Dallas and had a couple customer calls, but also did some time networking with other people. So that's the topic we're going to dive into. But hey, first, let's go to the question. The question comes from Chris in Seattle, and he asks, what is the criteria for determining if a networking event is worth attending?
Wow, this is such a good question, because I got to tell you, one of the biggest mistakes I see salespeople make when it comes to networking. Let me tell you, there are a lot of mistakes we make when it comes to networking. But number one has to be that we network at the wrong event. Years ago, I was coaching a client who worked in wealth management. She wouldn't see a client unless they had $1 million worth to invest. And when I looked at her networking event she attended, she was going to like the Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours. Now, most Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours are not full of people with $1 million or more to invest. So your number one criteria, the thing you need to look at first, is you need to be clear on your target market, which I know Mark and I sound like a broken record, but that is so key in sales. And then think about where your target market networks. And it may be traditional, it may be a Chamber of Commerce, but it may not. I mean, I've had clients who've gone to horse racing events because that's where their target market is. So first of all, align the event to your target market.
And don't hesitate at all to create your own networking event. Like I said, I happen to be in Dallas here, and I had some client calls yesterday, but I had some open time. So what did I do? I picked up the phone and called some other people. Not really clients. They really can't bring me business, but they can connect me with people who can bring me business. And I said, hey, let's get together. Let's connect. Let's connect for coffee. Let's connect for lunch. And we did. And so don't think for a moment that a networking event has to be something formal. It can be very much informal. You create it yourself.
Yeah, great points. I also think that make sure that the networking event allows time for networking, that is part of the agenda and the expectation of people. We used to have something in our community called a business before hours. And honestly, people blew in at about 10 till 7. We had a speaker at 7 o'clock and people wanted to be out by 7:30. Sure, it was nice to be seen there, but there really wasn't time to work the room and to talk and to engage people. So if they don't have 30 minutes to an hour on the schedule for networking, I don't know that that's really worth your time.
Well, and that's the whole thing. You really have to understand what are the parameters of the event and how are you going to benefit coming out of the event. Hey, you know what? We should probably jump into the topic because I have a feeling we got a lot of different things because we want to talk about networking from an online perspective also. So let's go ahead and jump into the topic. And the topic is how to make networking part of your sales success. And I'm going to jump in first because
Sure.
you and I have had a chance to participate in a number of times in networking events online. We've got a common friend who pulls a number of us together every few weeks, and we just chat online. And I'll tell you what, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty good. And it's amazing because we're able to connect with people from all over the country and share ideas. So don't think for a moment that networking is only something done in person.
Oh, I think that's so key, and it leads great into our question here from John. He says, "How would you suggest networking with a cold contact online without coming across too self-serving? Yet you want to advance the sales cycle." John, this is such a good question because the truth about networking is you treat it the same in person as you would online, and the same online as you would in person. You would never walk into the middle of a room and say to somebody, "Are you ready to buy my product or service?" So start to get in the mental space about acting like you're meeting this person in person, even though they're online. And the first thing that you would do would to nurture. So typically the way that I start online is I'll make the connection and I'll introduce myself by giving some way that we're connected. We might have something in common from our profiles. We might have something in common from the people that we meet. We might have a common interest or somebody might have introduced us. So I'll start the connection that way. And then I immediately start to follow them. I immediately start to comment on their posts, mention something that they wrote in an article, because you have to invest in others before you ask them to invest in you. And then I might, maybe after I do that for a while, I might reach out and say, "Hey, John, I just posted this article. I really think it would be relevant for you. If it is, maybe you'd want to make a comment or share it or something." So I'm starting to get the reciprocation. And then again, just like sales, it's a gut feel. And when the gut feel is right, I will ask them to jump on the phone and say, "I'd love to learn more about your business. Let's jump on and talk a little bit about it."
See, that drives home a point that I love to say. Your goal is to take the online connection and turn it into the offline conversation. You see, networking takes on so many different forms. And I want to come back to that question because it was a great question and you answered it well. I mean, could you imagine showing up at a networking event and saying, "Okay, guys, gather around. I've got my PowerPoint pulled up here on my computer. Let's all take a look at my 65." No. You have to show interest in the other person first. I think what I find very interesting is people who do a good job selling services, not products, but services, really generally do a very good job networking because they value the other person first.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it really leads in well to the fact that I am a passionate believer that if you build your network, it changes your life. So I think that networking needs to be part of the sales process. When I'm doing training on sales, I always say, if you never want to cold call again, learn to network. Because what you're doing is you're building relationships a year to 2 years ahead of time with people that you'll ultimately either do business with or they'll connect you with people that you need to do business with. So let's kind of break this down. You start with your target market, all right? So who is your ideal client? Then think about where they network, as Mark said, in person as well as online. Because in today's world, we want to be doing a hybrid of both. We want to be connecting with them in both places. Then make a commitment to show up and learn as much as you can about other people. One of the other mistakes we make with networking is we go to networking events and we talk to people we already know. And it's a waste of your time and energy, really, because you formed those relationships. Those people you can call, ask to coffee, ask to lunch, ask to jump on a Zoom call and have a conversation. You want to start to nurture a new relationship. So I always set a goal for every networking event I go to that I need to meet 3 new people. And of those 3 new people, I am going to walk away with at least 1 contact I'm going to follow up with. I'm going to take a breath here. I want to talk more about my after strategy with networking, but I want to give my partner, Mark, here a chance to weigh in.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. And I'll share with you a real quick, easy way regarding networking as to what do I do with this contact after I connect with them? I say I do 3 attempts on them. Now, my goal, and I like what you said, it's not to go and collect 100 business cards, 100 names. No. It's just 2 or 3. That's all I want. But what I'm going to do is I want to learn one piece of personal information about them from the networking event. Within 48 hours, I'm going to email or call or something. I'm going to reach back out to them and ask them a question regarding what they shared with me. They may say that, they love the New York Yankees, or they love the New England Patriots, or whatever it is. And I'm going to I'm going to add a comment. I'm going to ask them a question on it. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is I'm going to send them a link. I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to send them something of interest to their industry. Okay. And I'm just looking to see if they respond. And then I'm going to do that about 4 days later. And about 6 days later, I'm going to send them another thing. Hey, I just saw this. And in other words, I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to attempt 3 moves on them within the course of about a week. Now, here's what I find. If somebody's interested in you, they're going to probably respond to one of those 3. Great. And you say, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's get a conversation going. And then I can begin to determine if this connection is really worth kind of investing more time. But here's the key thing. Networking is a long tail. There are relationships that you will create today that may not have any kind of payout for years and years to come. Do not expect a networking event to suddenly put dollars into your bank account. But what I will say is this, and then I want to hear about this actor strategy, is this: your network, the size of your network, the value of your network is going to be in direct relationship to the size and the value of your net worth. Believe me, you become really the sum of the 5 people you associate with. So use your networking to up your game.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly why I hang out with you, Mark.
Yeah.
I love that our buddy here, Larry Levine, said we reap what we sow. So true. We've got to invest in others. So I really believe that networking needs to be strategic. So you have heard Mark and I talk so much each week about the number of sales calls we make, the number of sales follow-up calls we make, how we use email and the phone. Added to that is every single week, I make at least 2, more often 3, but I set a low bar of 2, that I'm going to reach out and just have 2 networking conversations. I keep up with CEOs that I've spoken with or worked with before in the past, clients that I've loved, team members I've worked with in corporate, just random people that I feel fit into my target market, that I have no goal other than to honestly reach out and just get in touch with them. Why do I do this? One is because I want to continue to nurture my network. I don't ever know when I am going to need something. Here's what I think about networking: is there is no problem, no challenge that you have that somebody in your network can't help you solve. But you can't use that network if you don't invest in your network. So make it minimal and do that. The other is if I attend a networking event, as I said, I have a goal that I've got to push out of my comfort zone, and I have to talk to at least 3 people. And when I do that, I've got a set of 5 open-ended questions that I'm using, because my goal is not to talk about me. Why? Because I already know all about me. It does me no good to stand there and learn that I'm a coach, that I'm a speaker, that I'm an author. Who cares? I want to learn about the person that I'm talking to, because in my mind, I'm deciding, is this a relationship I want to pursue? So before I leave that networking event, whether it's online or whether it's in person, I set the next appointment. I say, hey, Mark, this has been such a fabulous conversation. I know that you want to talk to other people here, so I don't want to dominate your time. Would you mind if I gave you a call? We could grab a cup of coffee, jump on a Zoom call. I just want to learn more about you and more about your business, because networking is not a one-time interaction. You have to nurture those relationships. You have to nurture those relationships along. Last thing I want to add about the long tail that Mark said, because it's so true, but oh my God, does networking reap you things. So this past year, in the middle of the pandemic, I had kept a networking relationship going. I had shared a stage with the head of marketing and development for Ritz-Carlton at the time. She ended up moving over and becoming head of sustainability for the Berkshire Hathaway companies. And we had always just kept in touch, no agenda, just kept in touch. This past year, in the middle of this pandemic, I cannot believe the amount of work she has thrown my way and the number of doors she has opened and connections that she has made. Now, I never pushed that. It was us investing in one another, getting to know. But had I let that relationship go after we shared the stage, I would have missed so much opportunity. So it has funneled completely into my sales process just simply by staying in touch.
I'll tell you what, that's so key. Investing in other people. And this was a lady who you really felt there was a connection with because of your intellect, because of your insights, because of your ideas. I've got people like that too. And it's amazing. I love reaching out to them and sharing with them the names of other people they should connect with. I love connecting people from a networking standpoint. Why? Because it increases the value of my network. There's a couple of individuals that I talk with on a regular basis on the telephone. And our conversations run far and wide, but it's always amazing. I get done with that conversation and then I think, hey, there's somebody who I need to connect that person with, or they do the same thing with me. And see, this is one-on-one networking. We have a tendency to think that networking has to be this formal thing, and it doesn't. Here's something that I love to do. And okay, we've been in a pandemic and traveling has been less. But this is kind of what I did yesterday. I had some open time. I fill it by meeting with other people. One of the things that I love doing is when I'm traveling to distant cities, when I'm traveling outside of my area, I will routinely say, hey, who is somebody I want to get to know? Maybe I just casually know them, or maybe we've only met once. I will not hesitate to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, have you got time for breakfast? Have you got time for lunch or coffee? And it's amazing the relationships that I have built up over the years. The network you create is so powerful. We cannot underestimate the strength. Now, here's something else. Here's one thing to keep in mind. When you have your network and you've got your people, create a couple different lists. Now, I'm not saying to categorize people in your network, but what I am saying is keep a list of 10 people. These are your master networkers. These are the people who, you know what? They value network. You value network. You value their relationship. These are the 10 that you want to really say, you know what? I'm going to spend even more time with. Then there's another list of maybe 25 or 50. These are people who, you hang around with, you might connect with every few months or every 6 months. And then there's this distant list, the list of people who you want to get to know. In fact, it's kind of funny if you think about this. If you were to make a list of the people who you'd really want to get to know and make it your objective. My objective is to get to know them. Now, to get to know them, you're going to have to go through somebody else who's going to go through somebody else who's going to go through somebody else. It's interesting. On my list is Sir Richard Branson. I'd like to get to know Sir Richard Branson. I've never met him. But you know what? Along the way, I met somebody who has met Sir Richard Branson. So guess what? I've now developed a relationship with that person. Now, is he going to connect me? Probably not.
Never know.
Think about this. I've got a relationship with somebody who, because he knows Richard Branson, guess what? He probably knows a lot of other people. It's a great relationship. That's what networking is all about. It's making the sum of the parts be more than they are individually.
Yeah, Mark, it is becoming clear to me that we need to do a deep dive on networking, because we have not even scratched the surface. So I forget what we call our 30-minute webinars, but we probably need to do one of those on there. And you can find our deep dives on the podcast, Sales Logic podcast.com. A big shout out to somebody I keep in my network, the powerhouse Laura Williams. She is amazing, and I'm so glad that she dropped in here today. One last thing, because Mark, you really touched on something, the fact that you reach out to people. Here's something I'm getting ready to, we've got a place in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm getting ready to head out there this afternoon. I'm going to be working in Charleston all week. I've got a small speaking engagement down there. And since I was there, I had met a meeting planner at a speaking engagement I had been at, and I just reached out to her and said, do you have time for breakfast? And she said, absolutely, I'd love to get together. And I said, I'm just curious. I said, I don't know very many meeting planners in South Carolina. If you want to bring anybody else along that you think might be a good fit and interesting conversation, why don't you bring them? And so she is bringing somebody who heads up meeting planning for the state of South Carolina. So it's an opportunity for me to extend my network. If you hate to cold calling is not something you want to do. Just nurturing that network, consistency is key. I mean, we could do a show on consistency. I think it's one of the most important words in sales. But just reaching out and having conversations with no agenda other than to invest and figure out how you can help other people. Mark and I could probably talk for 2 days, the number of doors that have opened. I can tell you because I sat down next to Mark at a CSP summit in High Point, North Carolina. I cannot tell you the number of doors Mark has opened for me just because of that casual conversation. We followed up on it, and here we are down the road doing a podcast and a mastermind and all these things together.
Yeah. And if you stop and think about that, we first met probably about 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was, we just happened to be sitting next to each other, I think at a dinner or something like that.
Yes.
And out of that, it just kept building. And stop and think about this for a moment. Networking is a long play, and you have to be willing to sit with it. But one of the things that you will attract more people if you become attractive. Now, what do I mean by that? It means you give back to other people.
Yeah.
You want to nurture your network. Don't use your network. In fact, I talk about it in my book, A Mind for Sales. You nurture your network. And hey, you know what? We should do a quick shout out. The ultimate networking event, Outbound, coming up in June. You and I are both going to be there. Meridith 100 to save $100. Go to outboundconference.com, and tickets are still available. But I'll tell you what, that is kind of like the ultimate outbound, or that is the ultimate networking event. Hey, in the interest of time, we got to jump over to the book. So many books we could have selected, but the book I selected is because of a gentleman who I met by way of networking. And over the last several months, we've become pretty good friends. Matthew Pollard has written a new book. It's called The Introvert's Edge to Networking. Yes, I'd love to show you a copy right here at home. I apologize. The Introvert's Edge to Networking. Now, if you get to know Matthew Pollard, he is gold in terms of his strategies. The book just came out a couple months ago. It is going gangbusters, and I very much suggest you pick it up. He's got a previous book that came out a couple years ago, and yeah, buy them both.
Yeah. Well, can I just say what I love about this is because so often people say to me, I'm introverted. Networking is something that makes me uncomfortable. I do believe you have an edge if you're an introvert. And the reason you have an edge is because you're quiet. And the goal with networking is to talk very little. And introverts are really, really good at that. I put the book in the chat. You can see it up there on the screen, Introvert's Edge to Networking by Matthew Pollard. And gosh, I know that we need to get into the lightning round, but I got to tell you, we have got to do a deep dive on this because I don't know about you, Mark, but I just don't even feel like I have scratched the surface about how important I think networking is to the growth of your business, to your sales process, to making your team even more effective. Pradeep just put a great great comment up there. If you're missing opportunities, if as a sales leader, you're not really helping your team with this, you're really missing something. So I want to dive more into it.
Great. Hey, lightning round. We got to do this fast. Networking secrets we've never shared before. Let's just do 3 or 4 because we're running out of time. Clock is ticking.
Yeah, it is. Talk 20 and ask 80. Go into every networking event with 5 open-ended questions that you are ready to ask.
Go into a networking event, focus your time on one individual, not the mass of individuals.
Yeah. Set a goal for how many people you're going to talk to and set a goal for who you're going to follow up with.
Always send a follow-up note after you network, after you connect with anybody.
Yeah. In that follow-up, make sure you mention something personal that you talked about, that maybe they mentioned their children or the fact that they had just been on a cycling trip or something, but make it personal and show that you listened.
Make the networking relationship more valuable by connecting them with somebody else. You share one more, I'll share one more, we'll close it down.
Yeah. Make sure that every week networking is part of your sales strategy, and just set a goal to either attend a networking event, reach out and network, but make it a habit, just like you floss your teeth or you exercise or you make your sales calls, which I know you are doing all of those.
Start off Monday morning by sending a quick email to 2 or 3 people who you haven't talked to in ages to say, hey, we haven't talked in a while. We should catch up. And with that, let's go ahead and close it down. I want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity, you won't be standing outside in 58-degree weather doing another show like this.
And uncertainty will suddenly become your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical. Hey, don't forget to check out the website, saleslogicpodcast.com.
And look, Mark and I will both be, as well as Larry Levine will be there too, at outboundconference.com. This is the sales conference of the year. You can be there in person. You can be there virtually. Please don't forget to come and check it out. And please check out saleslogicpodcast.com. You are an amazing audience. You check in every week. We love the questions. Keep it coming. And together, we're going to really turn all of this uncertainty into competitive advantage. We'll see you next week.